When I initially read this New York Times article, I thought of you and your reporting and your book because I read your book twice because you and I have talked about it multiple times in the past year and a half. Because how you describe Christmas 2022 in the Kohberger house is a lot different than how Mel Kohberger described it in this article. She says, according to the New York Times, if I ever had a reason to believe my brother did anything, I would have turned him in. And that really doesn't seem to be congruous with your reporting. She describes Christmas break 2022 very differently. She noted her mom made vegan cookies to adhere to Bryan's diet. They played games as a family. And when she sliced her finger open accidentally, Bryan was really grossed out by the blood. He was freaked out by it, but then he helped her ultimately bandage it up. But you describe Mel coming home from the holidays or to celebrate the holidays very differently. She noticed some peculiar things according to your book. Bryan wearing surgical gloves while vacuuming his Hyundai Elantra, him sorting the family's trash, putting his trash in Ziploc baggies, and then her witnessing something that she ultimately wished she hadn't seen. According to your book, she caught him in the middle of the night slinking down their driveway and putting the family's trash in the neighbor's bin. So what do you make of these two Christmas breaks, the one she described versus the one that was in your book?
Well, first of all, I never spoke with her, but I did speak to people in law enforcement who were aware of what was happening and who also were involved in the surveillance of the house and aware of what the surveillance uncovered. I think it's a real stretch to believe, let's start with the father, that first of all, he goes out to be with his son. He makes his trip across country. Money is tight in the family, but he still flies out to travel with his son. Why does he do this? Well, maybe he just wants to be a good father, but I believe and it was told to me by people close to the case, that on a certain level, he had his suspicions. When, for example, they're going across country and they see the flashing lights in the rearview mirror being pulled to the stop, I was told that the father's heart stopped. How could he not? The police all over the country are looking for a white Hyundai Elantra. He knows his son has problems. He knows his son has an emotional disaster waiting to happen. That's why he drove him out in the first place in the summer to school. And he has to have suspicions about his son. I believe, too, the sister, on some level, maybe she can't confront it now, but while it was happening, she does not want to blame herself for not going to the authorities, perhaps. I believe her heart is in the right place. I don't think her mind is attuned to what really happened. I got a B- in psychology, so I'm certainly no authority, but I did study cognitive dissonance, where a moment becomes too large for you to process. And I think that what was going on in her mind, just the way it was going on with Dylan Mortensen when they saw the intruder dressed in black in the house. No one knew really how to respond. None of us know how we will respond to a moment like that. And now in the aftermath, we try to put the pieces together, but they're not really accurate as to how we processed it at the time when they occurred.
When you're reading this article, what do you think of what was said versus what wasn't said? She didn't talk about the crimes, but she said she wanted to share part of her family's story. She described her brother as socially awkward, as abrasive, but as you said, they never saw any inkling of where he could be violent. As you said, her interpretation of him de-escalating an argument was, it seemed like it could have gotten physical on her end, and he held her hands down. She couldn't square the grisly nature of the crimes with who she knew as her brother, but also she didn't outright say anywhere in this piece, my brother is innocent. I mean, what do you make of how she's remembering her brother versus how she's talking about the victims' families and grappling with everything her family's been through?
I mean, she has a lot to process. And again, my heart goes out to her. I'm not condemning her, but I think, she's a family therapist. I think she needs a good deal of therapy to process the event that she went through. When she can talk about her brother holding back her arms, what provoked this argument? That's not pursued. What were they discussing? How forceful was he holding her back? Was she shocked by this? Is this something he had done in the past? Was there this sort of fisticuffs between them over the years? I mean, if she's a family therapist, what could he have done that would have provoked her to this sort of anger where he had to restrain her? She's remembering it in a way that's I think, very self-serving, but she has that right. Uh, I think the family was a lot more complicated. I mean, this was a young man when he was growing up was a heroin addict. He was morbidly obese. He, you know, tries out to work for a local police service, and they don't even allow him to be an assistant there. His friends complain about him being a bully, and yet she sees no signs. Yet the father rushes out to be with him. None of the pieces really add up. I think in hindsight, I think she's trying to put a gloss on it, but it still raises lots of doubts. And in my reporting, in my book, I pursued different avenues, and I still stand by them.